Chapter 10. Eji's first conscious thought was that his head hurt and his eyes were sore. His second thought was that this was because he had been crying. His third thought was less a thought than a mental scream of horror and embarrassment. What was wrong with him? Lord Felix had been so kind and complimentary, and he had cried about it? What must the god think of him after that humiliating display? He needed to apologize, or he didn't have even the slimmest hope of being kept. What master would keep an attendant who received his tenderness with sobs? Eiji forced himself out of bed and washed and dressed carefully. It was his day to deliver breakfast, and he wasn't sure how long he'd been asleep. Usually, his master made sure he was up in time for his shift, but that was unlikely to happen anymore. Another privilege, another kindness that Eiji had spat on with his disrespectful actions last night. When he dragged himself out past his curtain, he felt an almost painful shock at the sight of Lord Felix curled up in his favorite soft chair with a book. The god looked up when Eiji emerged, but he managed to prostrate himself before there was any danger of meeting his eyes without permission. "Good morning, Eiji." His master's voice was soft and cheerful, as if nothing were out of the ordinary. "You're up early. How are you feeling? Any better?" "I am well, my lord." It was a struggle to respond to the greeting before launching into his apologies. "That is, I am well, except for the memory of my behavior last night. Please, punish me as you see fit." "I hardly think that will help you feel better, which is my goal here, sweetheart." Eiji was less sure of that. A punishment would put him on steady, familiar ground and help him make up for his transgressions. It would end the strange, soft limbo he found himself in. Still, contradicting Lord Felix was out of the question. "As my lord wishes, of course," he managed. "Eiji..." The god sounded a little hesitant, which made Eji's stomach clench tight and scared. "I'm so sorry about last night. It wasn't my intention to upset you." This was worse than anger. Already the panic was thudding dully against the inside of his head. "Please, my lord, you owe me no apologies." "All right, I won't apologize, but I would like to know what I said that upset you." "Damn it, that was the whole problem, wasn't it?" "I truly don't know, my lord," Eiji whispered. He knew that he was being rude, that he shouldn't make his master strain to hear him, but the whisper was all he could push out. "Your words were kind, far kinder than I deserve. I don't understand my response, and I beg you to punish me for any displeasure it caused." "There's no displeasure, dear." The god sounded a little sad. "As I said, I only want to get to know you, so how could your honest reaction displease me? You were giving me exactly what I wanted. I'm not going to punish you for that." The words should have soothed him. They made sense. But that mournful tone kept Eiji on edge, wondering where he had gone wrong. "May I walk you to the kitchens today?" Lord Felix asked after the silence had stretched a little too long. "I need to talk with Zenji." Oh no! Eiji worried over his master's plans all the way to the kitchen. What did he want to talk to Zenji about? Did he plan to forbid Eiji from working in the kitchens anymore? It would make sense if he did. Twice now, in less than a week, Eiji had appeared before his master in an inexcusably slovenly state. He had often been absent from these rooms when Lord Felix was present and might have required some service. And perhaps the god had attributed his recent lapses in proper behavior to the influence of the free-spirited kitchen workers. But if Lord Felix meant to end Eji's work, wouldn't he have left him in the room? Perhaps he only wanted to reduce Eji's hours, or did he want a report from Zenji? That was an even more unnerving thought. What would Zenji say about his efforts? He was doing his best, but he just started, so there had been mistakes, and yesterday he'd been demanding about leaving early. Was Lord Felix going to be disappointed in him when he learned all that? Was he going to stop thinking... Eiji couldn't bring himself to think over what the god had said he thought of him. His mind flinched from the memory as if it were a heated brand, though it should have been the most treasured moment of his life. What the fuck was wrong with him? When they arrived at the door to the kitchen, Lord Felix swung it open and gestured Eiji inside. "I'll see you this afternoon," the god said, a clear dismissal. The kitchen workers made their half-distracted bob in Lord Felix's direction as he set off, no doubt in search of Zenji. Rokuro waved Eiji over. "Hot cakes today," the older man said, gesturing to the vat of batter he was stirring. "You can help Norio add the sugar and molasses, by which I mean keep him from licking the spoon until he's finished." "I wouldn't," Norio protested, but Eiji had already seen him dip a finger in the molasses jar. "So?" Rokuro began ladling batter into the hissing oil, his face turned to his task and his voice all studied innocence. "How did the big talk go?" Eji's head whipped around, and he scanned the room. "What? He found him already?" "Who found who?" Rokuro asked. "My lord and Zenji." Eiji saw that Lord Felix was speaking with someone else and relaxed infantasmally. Then his thoughts caught up with him and he turned back to the other man. "Wait, what did you mean?" "I meant the talk with Lord Felix that you rushed off for yesterday," Rokuro said, not even bothering to pretend at innocence anymore. "What was all that jerking around?" "You..." Eji's face flamed, and he found himself scowling down at nothing the way his former master used to do. "Is there no privacy in this place?" "Not much," Norio put in. "Now come on, why are you so jumpy about Lord Felix?" "I'm not," Eiji snapped. "Come on, are we here to talk about my private life or make breakfast?" "To talk about your private life," Norio said immediately, but before Eiji could respond, Zenji was bustling up to them. "Eiji, there you are," he said. "Naoki can't make deliveries for a few days." "Is he all right?" Rokuro asked. Zenji's face hardened. "It seems his master was rougher than she meant to be after the battle. He will recover just fine, but Lord Julia doesn't want him on his feet this week." A chill snaked down Eji's spine. Naoki belonged to Lord Portia, if he recalled correctly, and he was a quiet, sweet-natured man who would never have done something as stupid as disobeying a direct order after a battle. By all rights, if I had any other master... "You're going to have to cover his deliveries as well," Zenji went on, not seeming to notice Eji's distress. "That includes the back quarter of rooms." That included Lord Antony's room. "Oh!" Eiji felt a strange lightness in his head. He should be upset at the prospect, but instead he felt... what? Nothing? It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't a feeling he had a name for. It was a little loose, a little floaty, a little tickly? None of that made sense. He wasn't making sense. And it didn't matter. Who cared what he felt? It was irrelevant. He had his orders. That was what mattered. "All right," he agreed. "I'll be as quick as I can." "Good." Zenji looked him over, and a strange expression flickered over the older man's face. "Thank you, Eiji." "My lord wanted to speak with you." Eiji wondered if his voice was coming out a little too even and peaceful, because Norio was looking at him far too closely. "I don't know what about." "Hibiki got him," Rokuro put in, pointing to where the god was still standing with the same man. "You'd better go rescue poor Lord Felix while he still has ears." "Oh gods," Zenji groaned. He was already striding away and calling out, "My Lord Felix, would you please accompany me to my office? There's something I need to discuss with you." Lord Felix looked apologetic as he detached himself from Hibiki and followed Zenji. Then he caught Eiji looking and flashed a grin on his way out. Eiji was still too light and strange to even feel embarrassed. "I need to go," Norio said suddenly. "I'll be back soon. Hibiki, come help with the hotcakes, will you?" The next half hour passed in an endless wave of chatter. Hibiki had just read a new book, apparently, and he was full of thoughts about it. Eiji was only half aware of anything that was said, and before he knew it, he was setting off down the hall with his cart piled high. Best to start with Lord Antony's rooms, he thought vaguely. The lord of the ship comes first. It was unspeakably strange to approach that door. Eiji felt as if the last handful of days had all been some kind of dream or spell. Here he was, on his way back from exercise, and there was his master's door, and he would open it and be returned to the undifferentiated days, the silence and sameness. Once again there would be no companion but his own mind, and an unpleasant companion that was, vicious and hateful and never quiet. Lord Felix felt like an impossible fantasy. Who would want me? Who would touch me and talk with me and speak about love? How could I have been stupid and arrogant enough even to imagine that a god, that anyone at all, would deign to... His hands tightened on the cart. The cart was here, and real. His fingers slipped easily over the metal, worn smooth by many hands. He had never had a cart on his way back from exercising. Lord Felix might feel like an outrageous fantasy, but he had his work, and that was somehow easier to fix his mind on and steady himself. I'm delivering my meal because I work for Zenji now. This is my job. He took a tray and stood before the door, heart thudding so hard that it felt like he had a frantic animal caged in his ribs. His ears buzzed with blood, and his hand shook a little as he reached out and knocked on the door. He was about to see his replacement. He was going to meet the fresh, blooming boy who had taken his place. He needed to stay calm. The boy wouldn't know him. If he could just stay calm and businesslike, then it would all be over in a moment and he could stop panicking and get on with his day. Nothing. No one came. Had his knock been too quiet? He rapped on the door again, but he could tell that this time he was even softer. He couldn't help it. His head was swimming. The old feeling of weightless unreality had taken him with such practiced ease that he barely felt its familiar grip. No one hears me. No one sees me. Am I even here? Am I real? What does it matter? I can't change anything. I'm nothing. I'm a worthless, pointless vapor. I'm a ghost. I'm already dead. The door swung open, and instead of a new offering, Eiji found himself staring down at a familiar form. Lord Antony himself.